Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Effacement by Hieronymus Hawks, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue, About to Catch Fire. Philip Chestnut didn't understand why things had started to go sideways. The first couple of assassinations had gone perfectly, smugness mixed with irritation. His newsfeed had been bouncing stories all day long about mysterious deaths. That pissant reporter from the New Yorker had nailed it. The reporter had just made the list. Somebody would be writing a story about his death in the very near future. The Sig Sauer tucked in Phil's armpit dug into his ribs as he rode the elevator to the fourth floor. The pistol gave him an extra sense of security, even though he rarely had to use it. He likely wouldn't need the pistol today either, but having it filled him with a measure of bravado. The same measure he got when someone asked him where he worked. He was proud to serve, and the new Federal Department of Fidelity had been good to him. The elevator doors of the old brownstone opened into a wide hallway painted deep red with dark mahogany wainscoting. Despite the rich colors, the white carpet and ceiling made for a brightly lit corridor. He flexed his gloved hands, then knocked on the door of apartment number 406. It was late. This unannounced visit would no doubt be a surprise. A ping echoed in his mind, asking for a response from his VitaSync neurochip, a sort of handshake to confirm his identity. Phil ignored it. He knocked again. Shadow covered the peephole from inside the old door. Phil stood to the side so Slater would have to open the door to see him. Old habits. After another 10 seconds, the door opened a crack, and just beneath the security chain, an eye peered around the edge. "Oh, it's you. One sec." After removing the chain, Slater opened the door to let Chestnut inside. "What are you doing here so late?" Slater wore dark blue sweatpants and a wrinkled white t-shirt. Atop his head, a mass of disheveled brown curls completed his unkempt look. "We have a problem," Phil said. "You mean you have a problem. I've been reading the news feeds. You guys sure are bloodthirsty." People had been dying mysteriously, and blame had been vying for a place to land. The VitaSync was emerging as a candidate, unfortunately. "We didn't target all those people," Phil hissed. "Your piece of shit code is responsible for all those deaths." "Oh, no, you aren't pinning this on me. I designed the Nexus tool exactly as you asked." Phil wandered about the studio apartment. White walls and light-colored hardwood flooring gave the place a vanilla flavor. Curtained windows perched above the couch on the opposite wall, with an unmade bed in the left-hand corner. Clothes were strewn across the floor. Slater was untidy. Phil didn't do untidy. The only table in the room was littered with open Chinese takeout and pizza boxes. The place smelled of pork fried rice and sweat socks. Phil fought the urge to let in some fresh air. The apartment painted Slater as undisciplined. If he lived this way, it may very well have leaked over into the way he wrote code. Phil had obviously made a mistake hiring this guy. "Your code is malfunctioning. I need to know if you can fix it. Think carefully now." Phil left the rest unsaid. Slater walked over to a dresser and opened the top drawer. Instinct had Phil's hand moving to his gun, but no way this kid had a weapon. Phil had done thorough research. Slater pulled out a derm and applied it to his upper arm. Weak. Phil had never resorted to drug use, despite some rough action in Mashhad and Donetsk during the war. "Your VitaSync not working?" Slater laughed. "Are you kidding? I had that thing removed right after you hired me for this job." Slater wasn't stupid. Phil had to give him credit, but lacking the chip also complicated his plans. He couldn't use the Nexus tool on Slater now. "You're breaking the law, Slater. How is your life log being recorded?" "See the green light on top of the screen?" Slater said, gesturing to the screen on top of the dresser. "It covers everything except the kitchen and bathroom. I have AR glasses for everything else." Phil scanned the room again and spotted the glasses on a stand next to the bed. Now he was working against the clock. He needed to do what he came for quickly before the recording software sent an update to Slater's LifeLogger account. Good thing Phil had disabled the cable interface in the basement. The local internet would not be working. Cutting off access would slow them down, and all the recordings of his entrance into the building were wiped. It gave him a small window of opportunity if things went as expected. "I don't think you understand what you're asking me to do, Slater said. You don't think I'm smart enough to keep up? Slater snorted. Intelligence has nothing to do with it. Experience writing code is what matters. I would have to review every line to figure out what went wrong. Then I would need a closed system to test my fix, which would mean a live test group or an intricate and nuanced simulation. Slater sat down at his desk. Both of those solutions cost money. And depending on how long it takes me to figure out which part of the code is wonky, best case solution, assuming one of those solutions was backed, we're talking about a week at the very least. Probably several weeks and several $1,000,000. Phil was taken aback. And even though he didn't need any reassurance from this kid, a lot was riding on what happened next. His initial impulse was to come here to clear up a loose end. After giving it more thought, he had concluded it would be worth trying to fix the code. You didn't have those resources when you wrote your hack. Obviously, that was a mistake. Obviously. I did ask for those things when you hired me. Someone chose the cheaper path. My guess is that person is going to be scapegoated when all of this comes out. That person was well above Phil's pay grade, but he knew how to clean up a mess. I think hiring you was the mistake. Slater laughed. There are maybe a handful of people in the world who could do what I did. But you already know that. Alez is a bitch to work with. Bioneurotis holds on tight to the proprietary rights of their software. Honestly, I'm surprised someone hasn't already figured it out. Tesla Carrick may be a pain in the ass to work for, but she's wicked smart. Pretty much everyone there is brilliant. Says the former employee, Phil deadpanned. So what you're telling me is you can't fix it. I was meticulous with that code. I'm happy to find out what went wrong, but guessing if I did it right, with no way to test anything? Hey, it's your nickel. Slater grabbed a fidget from his desktop and spun it. Could make it worse, though. Word was already spreading through the department. Only a matter of time before Phil got called on the carpet. Rance Firestone was a prick, but an important prick. The Director of National Intelligence had handpicked Phil to execute the assassination plan. Discretion went without saying. Now that things were going off the rails, something would have to be done. The question was, could they keep the profile low enough to prevent it from blowing up in their faces? The way Phil saw it, they had two choices. Quietly fix the code, or burn it all down and distance themselves from the fallout. Spending millions of dollars didn't qualify as doing it quietly in his mind. He made a decision. Do you have notes on the first version? Of course I do. Show me. Slater froze. The fidget spinner slowed to a stop. The air in the room thickened. No. Phil pulled his gun. He didn't want to do it this way. I just found the software writer for the hack at Bioneurotis. Slater put up his hands, letting the spinner fall to the floor. He stood and backed away. Show me your notes, Phil repeated. Slater sank back into his computer chair. After a few strokes, the notes opened for Chestnut. Phil handed him a wafer. Put it all on here. Slater started to object, but Phil poked him in the back with the pistol. Are you close to your mother? He could shoot Slater, but that would create the wrong kind of questions. But he had other options. 4 stories should be enough. Federal jurisdiction on this case could lock up the evidence for years, and they would have someone to put the blame on if needed. Get up. We're taking a walk. Slater obliged, then pointed to his feet. Can I put my shoes on? Sure, over there. Phil gestured toward the far corner, then sat down at the computer. Better to take care of business now in case he got locked out later. What are you doing? Slater said as he fumbled with his shoes. Nothing for you to worry about. Does your lifelog feed get stored anywhere? Why would I tell you that? Because I still haven't decided to kill you, he lied. Do you think that is a bargaining chip worth dying for? Phil had some familiarity with how lifelogs worked with AR glasses. The bandwidth and storage requirements made it impractical to store locally for most people. Slater was a tech expert and might have set up an alternative. Where are we going? Just answer the question. Better to keep things simple, Phil thought. It goes directly to the AR glasses, which do their normal upload. That was the answer Phil hoped for, but Slater could also be lying. Phil didn't have time for an extensive search. He did a quick scan on Slater's computer. When he finished, unsatisfied but out of time, he opened a new note and began to type. Payback can be gratifying, but remorse is a more powerful emotion. I'm sorry to all of those I hurt. Phil read the suicide note back, surprised at how good it was, and left the note open on the desktop. Okay, let's go. Where are we going? To get some fresh air. When Slater turned his back, Phil grabbed the AR glasses and slid them into his pocket. The stairwell at the end of the hallway had a ladder to the roof. Up, Phil ordered. What? You heard me. Why? I told you I need some fresh air. You're insane. Calling me names will not help your cause. Nothing would, but the longer he kept Slater cooperating, the better. The hatch wasn't locked. Slater pushed it open and went through. Step away from the hatch, 5 paces. He put the pistol away and followed Slater. As he reached the top, Slater swung a snow shovel at his head. Phil almost laughed. He had expected Slater to try something. He ducked back, and the shovel smashed against his right hand, edge first. He ignored the pain with practiced determination and launched himself up and out. He pulled the shovel from Slater's hands easily enough and threw it to the side. He flexed his fist. It still worked, but his hand would have a nice color tomorrow. He walked up to Slater and with expert proficiency hammered a blow into Slater's gut so fast the guy didn't have time to react. The wind went out of Slater and he gasped for breath. Phil put a guiding hand on Slater's slumped shoulder and walked him forward as he wheezed for air, frosty mist forming from his exhalations. At least the air here was crisp and untainted by stale Chinese food. The roof was covered with snow. Fortunately, others had been up here and trampled a lot of the snow. Several spots were shoveled off where someone had set up lawn furniture and a raised fire pit. It answered the questions of where the shovel had come from. Empty cigarette packs were mixed into the kindling. Smoking had been illegal for more than a decade, but that didn't stop people. You a smoker, Slater? No, he wheezed. Is that why we came up here, to look for renegade smokers? Phil bristled at the sarcasm. I want to show you something. Phil walked Slater to the edge of the roof and pointed. Can you see that bridge in the distance? What? What bridge? Phil continued pointing as he backed up. Right there, look closely. It's about to catch fire. Slater stepped to the edge of the roof and searched for the bridge. I'm sorry I didn't get here sooner, Phil said. Sooner? Slater started to turn, but Phil put his foot on Slater's ass and kicked it with all he had. To stop your suicide, the enforcer finished. Slater flailed, but there was no stopping his momentum. He tried vainly to catch his balance, but within moments plummeted from view, screaming as he fell. Phil stepped away from the edge and flexed his hand again. It hurt. Strangely, the pain took away some of the sting from what he had done. He pulled out the AR glasses and used the butt of his gun to smash the memory chip, and then tossed them over the side to join Slater. One bridge to solve the problem had been burned, but it also closed the loop. He still had other options. Time to sweeten the pot for old Lunis Belrose. Money wouldn't work on him, but there were other things beside money.